You're watching Let the Quran Speak. Now we answer questions we receive from you, our viewers, and if you have a question yourself, please visit our website, www.quranspeaks.com. Okay, Brother Shabir, the first question is about Paul, and the question is Paul mentioned in the Quran? St. Paul.
No, in case some of our Muslim viewers are wondering who is St. Paul, he's a very important figure in early Christian history. He is said to be the author of 13 books of the New Testament. And he is revered as one of the most important followers of Jesus. Of course, he received his experience of Jesus after Jesus had been raised to heaven. But nothing of him is mentioned in the Quran.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as I know, there is no hadith of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, mentioning him either. There is some mention of him in some of the later Muslim writings, but nothing credited to the Prophet, peace be upon him, himself.
Mm-hmm. Were the disciples mentioned in the Quran?
Yes, the disciples are mentioned, and by that we understand to be the disciples who were there in the presence of Jesus as Jesus was physically present on the earth, and they're referred to in the Quran as the Hawariyun. And we may translate that simply as disciples, but the commentators say that this term Hawariyun may have something to do with their occupation. Perhaps they suggest that perhaps they were involved in like dyeing clothes, making clothes white, and hence this term. But this is speculation. There's nothing that that is given. No details are given that as to why this in the Quran itself, as to why this term was chosen for the disciples. But the disciples of Jesus are shown to be quite faithful in the Quran. They are believers in God. They are even called Muslims in the generic sense that they are submitters to God, being that they submit their wills to God. And they are referred to as helpers of God and of Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is another question about the punishment of kufr, I guess, disbelieving in God, and shirk. So this is asking about two different individuals. A person who has doubts about the truth of God, for example, a scientist who can neither confirm or deny God's existence and dies in that state of not knowing the truth. Or a person who rationalizes the non-existence of God or existence of several gods based on the evidence presented to him in this life. For example, polytheists, atheists, or believers in Trinity. So this person is asking, what is the punishment for these individuals, if there is some sort of punishment?
Obviously, the question is about the life hereafter, because it's never a question that anyone in this life could be punished for being a non-believer. The standard way in which Muslims have thought about things is that there are two places, heaven and hell, and there are two kinds of people, Muslims and non-Muslims. So the formula is very simple: Muslim heaven, non-Muslim hell. But the matter is more complex than this, because when we think about God and His creation, He doesn't do anything without a purpose. All of His acts are governed by wisdom. And His mercy precedes His wrath. When we put all of these principles together, we see that the common way of thinking of things, or that simplistic way which I first described, that cannot be the whole truth of the matter, because it would mean then that Muslims, being a minority in the world, just 1/4 of the world's population, or on the best estimate a little bit better than this, then it will mean that if you just consign all of the non-Muslims to hell, then the majority of people, a vast majority, are simply going to hell, and that calls into question the wisdom of God's creation. Did He create a system that is so wasteful? But now that prompts us to think more carefully about the issues. And we realize, as we think more carefully, that everyone has a purpose in God's creation. Even Satan has a purpose. And without going into that in more detail, we can say that human beings, both Muslims and non-Muslims, have their purposes, and they're serving some purpose. Some are serving good purposes despite themselves. Even the atheist serves a good purpose, in that atheists, by questioning the simplicity of the faith of believers, are forcing believers to think more deeply and carefully about their faiths. Now, you cannot, in the face of the atheist objection, you can no longer just simply say, I affirm that and I believe that, and that's the end of the matter. Mm-hmm. You have to think more rationally about what you believe. And your thinking more rationally about what you believe may, in fact, intensify your belief. Because if you're thinking emotionally about what you believe, then you are, in a way, protective of that belief, and you're afraid lest someone should find some fault in it. But if you allowed the atheist to ask his question, and then you thought more carefully about what you believe, and you have an answer for the atheist, now you are satisfied, you feel more tranquil, you don't mind if somebody were to open up your faith and examine it. So the faith of the believer becomes more intensified even in the presence of the atheist question, if the believer approaches this correctly. Mm-hmm. So in short, the people who are thinking critically about belief, and sometimes even rejecting belief after thinking about it critically, they also fulfill a purpose in God's creation. Now, would God create people and they're fulfilling some good purposes and then in the end just simply punish them? What would be the purpose of that? Now, if someone was clearly presented with the message of God, and God made every appeal to this person, it's clear to this person, look, I am your creator, I'm asking you to just simply fulfill the purpose for which I created you, and this person is denying and refusing to fulfill the purpose for which God created him or her, well then, it wouldn't be unnatural or contrary to wisdom if God were to then dispose of that person as we dispose of things that we make for a certain purpose but is failing to fulfill its purpose. So in that sense, we can understand that some people in the life hereafter would be thrown away, discarded into the great recycling bin of the cosmos, which we are referring to now as with the term hell. Mm-hmm. As some of our recycling bins here might be full of flames to deal with the refuse, that's how hell is traditionally also conceived.
All right, we'll leave it at that. That's all the time we have. Thank you, Brother Shapir.
You're welcome.
And for updates and additional information, please visit our website, www.quranspeaks.com, and write to us because your comments and questions help guide the show. I'm Sophia Ali. For all of us here at Let the Quran Speak, thank you for watching. I'll see you next week.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allah.